Our next speaker has been here since yesterday, and that shows you commitment and passion to the topic. He is here to tell us the perspective from the executive side of the local government. He was the former representative of the 3rd District of Cagayan and the Presidential Legislative Liaison Officer during the administration of the former President Benigno Aquino. Please welcome the Governor of Cagayan, Governor Manuel Mamba.
Naimbag nga malayam tayo amin. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Una-una, nagpapasalamat ako sa Rappler sa pag-imbita sa amin. In fact, kasama ko yung mga PDRRMO ko, yung Social Welfare Officer ko, yung PIO ko, because we really want to learn from you. And we are learning a lot from Rappler. Let's give a big hand sa Rappler. And I hope you can also learn from us, lalong-lalo na yung experience namin nila Yusek Halad sa Lawin or the Haima that we had last year. Anyway, it starts this way. Cagayan is at the northeastern tip of the Philippines. It has a total land area of more than 9,000 square kilometers. It is about 480 kilometers north of Manila, 2,700 plus kilometers southwest of Tokyo, and 570 kilometers south of Kaohsiung. Sitting along the Pacific Typhoon Belt, the Philippines is considered the 3rd most vulnerable country to climate change. Hence, if the Philippines is visited by an average of 20 typhoons every year, and at least half of that enters and lands in Cagayan, we could say that Cagayan is perhaps one, if not the most vulnerable province to climate change. This is why my first official act upon assumption of office in July 1, 2016 is the issuance of Administrative Order Number 1, creating the Cagayan Incident Command System in response to disasters and emergencies, and situations approaching crisis level, and the establishment of quick response stations in the province. On August 10, 2016, I also issued Executive Order Number 3, creating the Provincial Office for People Empowerment, or POPE, and providing for its powers and functions. On the same day, Executive Order Number 4 was also issued, creating the Task Force Lingkod Cagayan and providing for its composition and functions. I was only on my 4th month as the Provincial Local Chief Executive when Typhoon Lawin, or Haima, was detected to make a landfall in my province, Cagayan. We all learned valuable lessons from Yolanda, and what we should and should not do. I knew I had to act swiftly, decisively, and firmly. The DOST, Pag-asa, and the RRMC were emphatic in their weather update and warnings on how strong and possibly catastrophic Lawin would be. Responsibilidad kong pangalagaan ang aking nasasakupan. Lawin turned to be a super typhoon with a massive 600-kilometer diameter and a maximum winds of 225 kilometers per hour and a gustiness of up to 315 kilometers per hour. It was initially forecasted to make a landfall in Cagayan area early morning of October 20, which was a Thursday. As early as Monday, I declared suspension of classes in all schools. On Wednesday, work was suspended in all government agencies and private offices, except those providing frontline services. I wanted everyone to be prepared for the worst. Indeed, Lawin decided to invade the Philippine area of responsibility earlier than expected. It arrived around 11 o'clock Wednesday evening. I personally manned the command center, set up at the provincial capital, and stayed there until Lawin was long gone. Local radio station went off the air before midnight. The last SMS I sent to my wife at around 2 a.m. Thursday, I told her the typhoon is very strong. Please pray for us. Afterwards, the communication lines went dead. Walang makakapigil sa kalamidad. mangyayari ito. At present, super typhoons have become a common occurrence. It is now the new normal. Lawin was a Category 5 equivalent cyclone. It is the second most intense tropical cyclone worldwide in 2016. With a population of more than 1,879,000 plus people, and 784 out of the 820 barangays were affected in my province. 111 were also injured, and there were 5 casualties. 2 did not heed the advice of LGU officials to evacuate. They were dead right inside their houses. 2 were hit by hard objects outside their house, and 1 did not expect that the typhoon will arrive earlier than predicted. Around 26,000 houses were totally destroyed. More than 100,000 houses were partially destroyed. Billions of pesos worth of agricultural products and infrastructure were damaged. We identified several strategies that we implemented in the local level which help us cope with Lawin. 1, reorganization and activation of the Provincial Risk Reduction Management Council. This includes the Philippine Army, Philippine Navy, Philippine National Police, Philippine Coast Guard, Office of the Civil Defense, PAG-ASA, other government agencies, civil service organizations, and others. Participatory planning was encouraged. Among the resolutions passed is the prohibition of selling of liquor 2 days before the expected arrival of Lawin, and the 24-hour monitoring and broadcast of all radio stations. Number 2, adopt a neighbor and force evacuation. On October 18, 2016, 2 days before landfall, I called for emergency meeting as chairman of the PDD-RMC to tackle pre-disaster risk assessment. It was during this meeting that the body agreed to immediately enforce a preemptive evacuation and the Adopt a Neighbor program. Those that live in flimsy dwellings or in precariously dangerous areas were evacuated, and those that live in stronger houses welcomed neighbors into their homes. Kasama din dito ang mga simbahan na binuksan ang kanilang pinto, maging sa mga kababayang hindi naman kaanib sa kanilang relihiyon. Number 3, close coordination with the Philippine Army and the Philippine National Police. No matter how committed our employees in the capital are, mga tatay, nanay, anak, at kapatid din sila. Mayroon silang mga bahay na nilipad ang mga bubong at nawalan ng mga dingding. On the other hand, most of our soldiers and policemen come from somewhere else. Their families and their homes were not affected by Lawin. In our case, it was the Philippine Army and the PNP that helped us clear our roads because our own people were trapped in their respective areas of assignments and their own families and properties were all affected. Number 4, deployment of provincial disaster rescue and relief departments days before landfall. Tulad ng inaasahan, nakapwesto na sa mga kanya-kanyang assignment ang mga tauhan, kagamitan, at mga relief goods ng PDR-RMC at ang ating welfare office. Kasama din ang aking unang nabanggit, Task Force Lingkod Bayan or TFLC, and the Provincial Office for People Empowerment ay yung tinatawag nating POP. At present, TFLC has 6 substations in strategic locations in the province, each of which are equipped with rescue equipments, ambulance, and a 24/7 medical team that are well-trained in search and rescue in both land and water, basic life support, and ambulance and outboard motor management training. Meanwhile, POPE, or the Provincial Office for People Empowerment, is responsible for the organization and supervision of 7 purok or zone organizations, which we called Agkay-Kaysa, in each of these 820 barangays province-wide. The Agkay-Kaysa Purok organizations are the first responders in any calamity, man-made or natural. After a year, we now have 734 or 88% of the 820 barangays with an organized People's Empowerment Council. 4,815 Agkay-Kaysa organizations with a total membership of more than 144,000 or 90% of the total 5,452 puruks in the 820 barangays province-wide. In this regard, due credit must be given to the now self-reliant, empowered, and disaster-resilient barangay folks we have organized. Preemptive measures were successfully implemented because the people themselves had taken the lead. Number 5, we have the Sumbong Mo Kay Gob. My cell phone number, which I have used since cell phones have become a necessity, is distributed and posted province-wide. It is not only an effective mechanism in our anti-criminality programs, such as violence against women, abuse of children and senior citizens, crimes against the environment, abuses of government officials and public servants, but it is also the fastest means to report calamities and other instances where life and property are in danger. And number 6, no barangay left behind and no city or town left behind programs. This is a new component of our annual investment plan, where every barangay is extended financial assistance in the amount of 500,000 pesos, and every town 3 million pesos every year, provided that 1, the People's Empowerment Councils and the Agkay-Kaysa organizations are organized in every barangay. 2, past financial assistance granted in previous years have been liquidated in accordance with COA rules. And 3, there must be accountability and transparency in the utilization of funds. With the No Barangay Left Behind and the No City or Town Left Behind program, our LGUs can now implement disaster mitigation projects which they could not do before because of limited development funds. 3 months after Lawin, we held the first ever Climate Change Summit in Cagayan in partnership with the DOST, DA, the American Chamber of Commerce, and PMFTC to discuss Lawin and the lessons learned from it. In the end, there is really no better strategy but to plan and prepare. Maraming salamat po sa ating lahat, and God bless all of you.